To our first discussion, the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative says it has invested more than $450 million in the compressed natural gas value chain. Mr. Michael Oluwagbemi, Project Director, Chief Executive Officer of the initiative, disclosed this at the 9th edition of the Nigerian Energy Forum, where a virtual event in Lagos with the theme Energizing Sustainable Industrialization. According to Mr. Oluwagbemi, the amount goes to into things like mother stations, daughter stations, and refueling stations, as well as conversion centers, which are starting to spring up across the nation. On incidents of explosions of vehicles using CNG, the CEO assured Nigerians that it are taking precautionary measures with different agencies to government agencies to ensure safety. He added that the initiative would have converted more than 1 million vehicles using petrol to CNG. Well, let's now join the project director, chief executive officer of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, Mr. Michael Oluwagbemi, who joins me from our Abuja studios live. Good afternoon. It's good to have you on the program, and a happy new year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Tolu. Good afternoon to your viewers.
All right, I think we need to start with an overview of some of your activities. Of course, a lot has been happening, looking at the conversion centers, distribution of kits. We can go on and on and on. Can you give us an overview of what's been happening? Then we pick up some specifics moving on in our conversation today.
Yes, thank you very much. First and foremost, let me set the record straight that it is not the PCNGi itself that invested $450 million. We attracted over $450 million last year of investment into the compressed natural gas value chain. In fact, myself and my team, we track these investments. We've attracted specifically about $479 million worth of investment into the CNG sector last year. And it has created over 9,000 direct jobs and over 75,000 indirect jobs as a result of this investment. The federal government gave incentives worth well over $651 million in terms of different goods that were shipped in for the purpose of CNG last year, also through the import duty exemption certificate window. So that indicates to you the level of investment, the trust, and the entrepreneurship that is beginning to take over the landscape, which is good news for us. For the most part of last year, the first and second and third quarter, our team primarily worked on, of course, on public awareness and, of course, engagement with the private sector. So for us, it's good news when we have this level of investment. Those investments, as you've said, have gone into the development of conversion centers, for example. We started the year last year with just 7 conversion centers. We ended the year with 193 of them. We started the year with just less than 20 mother stations. We ended the year with 24. We started the year with less than 20 daughter stations. We ended with 50 and with more than 86 of them in development. All of these have attracted investments. These were done by private sector. Not a single conversion center is being built by the federal government of Nigeria. So we think that this is the way to go, because once the private sector is involved, engaged, then the program is sustainable over the long term. In addition to this, of course, the federal government by itself also invested in significantly procuring materials, especially conversion kits, to underline what we call the conversion incentive program that will provide 1 million feed conversions to commercial buses, commercial vehicle owners and operators that convey over 90% of Nigerians across our cities. In addition to that, we also acquired and invested in acquiring platforms, over 576 of them, CNG and EV platforms that are beginning to be distributed through state mass transit authorities, as well as through the unions, to convey Nigerians from one point to the other. And we saw, as a matter of fact, during the Yuletide period, 160 CNG buses participated in the Yuletide period discount, given 0% free mass transit in major cities, including Abuja, as well as 50% discount on interstate mass transit through the Federal Ministry of Transportation program. We had over 160 CNG buses involved in that program. And of course, it not only helped the federal government reduce the cost of bearing the cost of the discount during that program, but also conveyed our people cheaper, safer, and of course, more reliably.
correct those figures. Yes, a lot of investments, really looking at what you've said, Mr. Oluwagbemi, and it's really like a lot of work is being done. Now, let's look at I look at the subnationals that they have a role to also play in this. This should not just be the federal government thing alone. Now, tell us about this conversation. What sort of conversation are you having to deepen the use of CNG powered vehicles across the board? What more are you doing to deepen this as we move on in 2025?
Yes, thank you very much. The first, in fact, one of our three major areas of focus this year, the first one, of course, is that we want to concentrate deployment. We want to make sure that by concentrating deployment, we can begin to impact the price of transportation in our major cities, especially Lagos and Abuja. In addition to that, we believe strongly, if you look at the president's speech, New Year's Day speech, was talking about the engagement of subnational government. We're beginning to see a lot of our state governments step up to the plate to invest. For example, I understand Enugu state government are beginning to receive its buses. Niger state has received its own. A lot of state mass transit authorities were actually partnered with us. We deployed about 85 buses through various state mass transit authorities, including Lagos, in Oyo, in Ekiti, in Kwara, as well as in Abuja, during the Yuletide period. So, and of course, this continues into the new year. So we want to see state mass transit authorities adopt CNG buses, convert their CNG current petrol vehicles to CNG. We want to see them deploy CNG tricycles. We want to see them invest in refueling. It's important that these vehicles, as we're seeing, of course, one of our big successes that last year was increased awareness and adoption. But of course, that creates a new problem because now the CNG infrastructure and CNG distribution itself is not up to the level of awareness and adoption that people are moving. So we need state authorities to invest in daughter stations. We need them to invest in virtual pipeline systems in order to bridge the gap. The federal government alone cannot do it. But the reality is that when we have more states on board, then that is great. The last thing we are going to focus on this year, of course, is safety and safety awareness. We want to make sure that we launch the Nigerian gas vehicle monitoring system, that we ensure end-to-end monitoring of all gas vehicles, not just CNG, including LPG, LNG, and probably in the future, hydrogen. We're working with the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Gas to ensure that this system is rolled out before the middle of this year, to ensure that every vehicle is registered, every kit used is registered and utilized only at properly accredited conversion centers, and only properly converted or inspected vehicles, if they're OEMs, are filled at the pump, and that the FRSC is also able to enforce this on the road. So these three legs: one, to ensure that we concentrate our deployment, and of course to enable state governments as subnational and regional commissions to fill in the gaps, and of course to ensure that safety awareness and safety practices in the industries are properly monitored, are three critical strategic focus for 2025.
You've talked about safety, and that remains very important because we've seen incidents of explosion in some cases and different positions. What would you tell us about your partnership with agencies of government to, educate Nigerians more on how to properly manage the use of CNG vehicles, and of course, what are those things that they need to look out for so that everyone, of course, can be safe? Yes, I know that this is what is done in foreign countries. Even the hydrogen you mentioned is already being used in so many countries. What's your take with regards to that?
Yeah, the key is that first and foremost is to note that CNG is safe. I mean, intrinsically, it is safer than petrol and diesel. 8 times less explosive than diesel, 18 times less explosive than petrol. It's stored in bulletproof containers that is seamless, made of seamless pipes, so there are no welded joints. It's lighter than air. Self-ignition temperature is above 1,000 degrees centigrade. So as it were, it's a safe energy form of moving around for transportation. However, it is still energy, and it has energy in it, and it has to be handled safely. And we understand that there's going to be attempt by some folks, like we saw in the case of Benin, the one singular case of Benin that happened last year. Some people will try to cut corners because they understand CNG costs cheaper to operate than petrol and diesel. But instead of them to use and utilize the proper materials, they will try to cut corners. We want to make sure that these kind of quacks are eliminated from the system. And that's why we're working with the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Gas to launch what we call the Nigerian Gas Vehicle Monitoring System. We've already demoed it, we developed it. Now we are going to the point of piloting it, working with our refueling centers, critical refueling partners, including NNPCL and NIPCO, as well as the critical agencies. I mean the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority that regulates the discharge of hydrocarbon at the pump, the Standard Organization of Nigeria that regulates the kits, as well as cylinder standards, and all the materials that are used for OEM vehicles and get and certification of OEM vehicles, whether MANCAP or SUNCAP, depending on whether they are manufactured in Nigeria or imported out of Nigeria. And of course, we are also working with the NADDC, the Nigerian Automotive Design and Development Council, to ensure that proper certification of centers as well as technicians, and Federal Road Safety Commission, very important for enforcement on the road. So these agencies, 4 of them combined together, are working with us to ensure, as well as the Minister of State Petroleum Gas and his team, to ensure that we properly institutionalize this safety framework. As I've said, there will be no differentiation if there's a problem with respect to natural gas vehicle between, say, an LPG, CNG, hydrogen, or even an LNG vehicle. So what we are focused on is ensuring that the entire natural gas vehicle space, Nigerian gas vehicle space, is actually properly regulated and properly monitored to ensure that we do not have any problems. So the Nigerian gas vehicle monitoring system will allow us to do that. It's going to be quick, it's going to be rapid, it will allow you to identify vehicles that are properly inspected and are inside the regulatory framework, those that were properly converted, if they are not OEM vehicles for inspection, but those that are non-OEM vehicles that were converted, to make sure that they were properly converted before they are filled at the pump. That, I think, is critical to ensuring the safety and sanctity of the Nigerian gas vehicle system.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, because I wanted to talk about standards. It's very important we maintain standards here, and with your partnership, I think that should also be addressed. Now, another question is about the distribution of these kits. I want you to tell us how far we've gone, that's one, and how receptive are also Nigerians with regards to this. I'm aware that in countries like India, there is a policy where they don't register vehicles that run on petrol and diesel. Are we looking at that moving forward in Nigeria? Because for transportation, at least at first, what are we looking at to make sure that this is properly dipping? Do we have targets, short, medium to long term, moving forward?
Thank you very much for the question. For the in terms of the first question with respect to the distribution of kits, we started receiving kits 4th quarter of last year. Of course, these were acquired by the Federal Ministry of Finance. Okay. And right now we're getting more kits, and those kits are going to be increasingly deployed across the conversion centers. We have over 123 conversion centers registered under what we call the Conversion Incentive Program, primarily focused, concentrated in key urban centers, especially Lagos and Abuja. We want to make sure that we focus on these critical cities so that we can impact the price of transportation, because it's only when you get to a critical mass of converted vehicles that you can begin to now bring down the price of transportation, as it were. And that is our focus currently. We are also engaging with the unions. We are signing agreement, transport fare reduction program agreements with union drivers that are coming from airports to railway station to key markets in these major cities as well, to ensure that as we are getting to an appreciable level of conversions of their fleet, they are also dropping the prices so that people can benefit from it. That is our current focus. I believe that before the end of this 1st quarter, we should have been able to get to an appreciable level of conversion level. We started our 10 for 10 program. We're leaving our offices and directly going into the parks, registering the drivers, educating them, and getting them inspected, and ultimately converted in Abuja and Lagos. We started in Abuja last week. I went around the city to the various parks, including Jabuka Park, Gadwa Park, as well as in Lugbe, to inspect and to walk and to engage with the drivers. A lot of them are enthused about the president's incentives, which is free for them, and they can't believe it. And to be honest, I think it's a good thing, and we thank Mr. President for that incentives they have provided for them. And as soon as we get where our goal is to get 10,000 of these commercial vehicles in Abuja and Lagos converted in the next 10 weeks. And then we'll take it from 10,000, we take it to 20,000, we take it to 50,000, we take it to 100,000. We have set lofty goals for ourselves this year. Our team is up to it and are up to the task, and we're going for it. Now to your second question. Yes, it is very important that state authorities partner with us in this area. As you know, transportation is on the concurrent list, and when it comes to the matter of regulating transportation sectors in our cities and our states, that is a matter that is left for our State House of Assemblies and our state governors. So as be it as it may, in terms of setting transportation policies in our local government and our cities, that is something that is the remit of subnationals. We are working with them, we are advising them. We're already having engagements with the Abuja Authority, for example, at least where the federal government have some say, where is the Federal Capital Territory, to see whether we can set target and convert all Abuja painted taxis to CNG very soon. And that conversation is going on. There will be some news very soon. I will not try to step on the news, but
you don't want to break it here.
There will be some news very soon, and I think it's going to be positive. Yes, I won't break it here now. Thank you.
Mr. Oluwagbemi, before we wrap this up, I also want to ask you, in all of this, are we putting in much of local content into what we're doing? Because you're doing a lot, and of course, a lot of Nigerians should also be involved and enjoy the benefits of this. How are we building capacity, using local content to drive this initiative?
Fantastic. There's nothing that excites me more than the opportunity that this creates for Nigerians. Like I said, we created well over 9,000 jobs directly through attracting the investment, over $470 million worth of investment last year. And these are being done by mostly Nigerian companies. And to me, that is something that is exciting. Beyond that, the reality also is that because of the nature of the industry, we need to start sourcing some of our materials here locally. And we're beginning to see investments every day through our offices. We're taking meetings, folks investing in manufacturing facilities in terms of manufacturing of kits and cylinders. They're beginning to look into it. They're trying to set up. It takes time, naturally. Engineering feats take time. Beyond these, of course, just manufacturing, also manufacturing of buses, manufacturing of vehicles. We've seen various automotive companies set up. We've seen an assembly plant for tricycle that was launched, for CNG tricycles that was launched on the Lagos-Shagamu Expressway last year, and we're patronizing them. We're patronizing a lot of Nigerian companies, Innocent, Jet Automotive, Mikano, all of these companies, EV Brilliance, even under the EV component of our program, we're patronizing them, Dana Motors. These are local companies that are Nord Motors, Lanrishitu Motors. These are local companies that are manufacturing and assembly. And to us, we are positioning them, TGIs, Logia, we're positioning them in order to be able to benefit from this program. Be it as it may, when we look at our spend in the last, I say 15 months since the program started, we will realize that more than 80% of our direct spending, that is through the Federal Ministry of Finance, have been through Nigerian companies. Now, that is one part of the job. The second part of the job is to make sure that the materials they're bringing are Nigerian made. And that is where we need to move into. And I think we're taking a close look at our supply chain and industrial policies as with respect to CNG. And I can tell you that Nigerian companies are positioned to take full advantage of the nation's energy transition policy developed by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and they will ensure maximally in the next few years as we begin to see made in Nigerian products dominate the CNG value chain.
So finally, before I let you go now, what more would you want Nigerians to know? And I asked the question too earlier that what are we projecting? Let's have a bit of, let's have figures now and project. How many vehicles do you think we would have converted, or how many CNG vehicles do you think will be running around our roads, say in another 6 months, another 1 year, so that we see how we, get all of this working as quick as possible? Time is, of course, money.
Absolutely. So currently, the GACN estimates that between 30,000 and 50,000 vehicles, including trucks, are on Nigerian roads that are running on CNG.
Wow.
Our goal is to raise that number to between 150 and 250,000 in about 12 months. And then to raise it further to 500,000 in about less than 18 months. So, of course, as you know, when you start the process of conversion, it's still rather slow. Our current conversion capacity as a country, with 193 conversion centers, is approximately about 50 to 55,000 conversions a year. We want to raise the number of conversion centers before the end of the year to 500. So our conversion capacity will more than double, because, as you know, the initial conversion capacity of each conversion center will start slowly, maybe 1 or 2 conversions a day, and as they get proficient, then they raise that conversion capacity. So this is our limiting factor, and that's the reason why from day one, we've been solely focused on trying to raise the number of conversion centers. And of course, the proficiency, the training of the technicians, and training more technicians. Last year, we did more than 1,500 technicians training, and we know that this year we are targeting to do up to 10,000. If we don't raise the number of technicians, we don't raise the number of conversion centers, then no matter the number of kits that we bring into Nigeria, we will not be able to convert them. So we are looking to do directly by ourselves this year through the CIP, more than 100,000 conversions directly through the CIP. Through the CAM, maybe another 25,000, and then our private sector partners will be able to do another 125,000. That will raise the number of CNG vehicles on the road to 200 to 250,000. Of course, that creates another problem. Then we now have to find the gas, and of course, the distribution of the gas across Nigeria. We want to reduce the wait time at the pump. We want to ensure that we're working with our partners at NNPC. They have plans to deploy about 120 refueling stations. They've done 12 so far. They will do 8 before the end of this quarter. They're doing 100 in the next 10 to 12 months after that. NIPCO is deploying another 30 as well, 32 actually, of which they've already done about 12 so far, and so 20 to go. Bovas is doing about 12. Immediately, they're already constructing 4. So we want more of these to come on board, and we will have a policy of trying to deploy modular refueling units also at conversion centers in order to reduce the wait lines at the pump. But it takes time. Engineering feat takes time. You need to bring in the equipment, you need to design it, you need to deploy it, you need to test it, you need to commission it. But when's the work? The work. And so it's very important that we see all of these as a complete value chain, starting out with what we've done so far, which is raise the level of adoption, raise the level of awareness, impact adoption, and drive investment. Ultimately, that's what will solve the problem long term and make it sustainable.
And we hope to have you in again to do at least a level of evaluation and assessment of how far we've gone. Mr. Michael Oluwagbemi is the Project Director, Chief Executive Officer, Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. Thank you so very much for joining the program.
Thank you for having me. This is my pleasure.
All right, then we'll